Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started now. Janice, do you want to take roll call?
President Davidson,
Yeah, I'm here.
Vice President Ricketts, Secretary Kincaid, Treasurer Hahn, Director Argot, Director Hector, Director Lynch, Director Sauvé, Director Setzer. Absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, and you all rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll call the meeting to order, and the first thing I would like to do is add to the agenda approval for the minutes of the March 19th special meeting, emergency meeting regarding insurance, and I'd also like to add for approval of the March 26th organizational meeting minutes. So I would call, pardon? I can't hear you, Dan. You got to use,
Move to approve.
which one?
We'll do both, but we'll start. We'll do both, but we'll start with March 19th.
Do I have a second for the approval of the March 19th board minutes?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the March 19th minutes are approved.
Move to approve the April 2nd minutes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the April 2nd meeting minutes are approved. Can I have a motion to approve the March 26th organizational meeting minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Tom. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the March 26, 2021 organizational minutes are opposed. Next, approved. Then I'll move on to the management reports, and Ginger, I'll ask you to go first.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. We'll go through the report as typical. Clubhouse, starting with clubhouse usage for April, climbed over 32,700 for the month, over 1,000 daily visits, which has been interesting to watch. And after, you know, the South Club had closed for a while, and then spring break, that it still maintained that type of usage. We started tracking clubhouse usage last July after COVID hit and the some of the closures, but since July through April, we did just shy of 200,000 visits in the clubhouses. So amazing traffic in spite of the year, you know, and that counts everybody who came into one of the facilities. In fitness and spa update, we had 6,800 total gym users. That, of course, has been consistent. I won't read through all the water class and lane class, but
Ginger, may I interrupt you? Could
Yes.
you do the minutes from your report from the podium, because we're on speakerphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot about that.
And while Ginger's walking up, I just want to remind everyone in attendance that masks are required to be worn at all times except when speaking.
My mic with me, sorry. All right. Got it together, Ginger. Sorry, everybody. All right. So down to salon and spa usage for April. We were 30% decrease over prior month. We expect that to go down for the summer, but we did over 16,600 in sales and services in the month, and we served 377 clients with 624 services. In food and beverage, the total patrons served for April was over 6,700 with total sales of over 100,400. That's a 7.7% increase over the prior month. Interestingly enough, because last fall when we were creating the budget for this April 1st year, not knowing where the world was going, we had budgeted a lower number, so whoo-hoo, we beat budget by 15% in food and beverage sales for April, so a little bit of good news for us there. The Portico pickup sales remain very strong with 26% of sales at the pickup. We know that that's a very popular amenity right now and doubtful it will go away anytime soon. In our projects, we have the main clubhouse and South Club surveillance camera projects almost completed. They're undergoing some final installations and getting the surveillance software prepared, and IT's nearing completion of the software integration. What that means is you're going to have very specific spots, traffic, places where there's cash registers with surveillance cameras. They've been there in the past, but as you know, in this world, technology moves along, and so this is a more comprehensive system where individual managers will have access to watch. It's typically considered a forensic system where you're not sitting there watching it all day long. It's usually if somebody slips and falls or there's a theft of some sort that they can go back and review the film on that. This main clubhouse theater sound system is being replaced, scheduled to begin on June 15th. It will take approximately 10 business days. And here we go again, moisture intrusion testing. We have now 3 mechanical engineers who have walked the property and looked at the study and declined to bid on the project. We now have additional engineering firms when we're waiting to hear back from them. Unfortunately, the market for these services apparently is high. The project's very involved, and I think it's just making it difficult for us to find a vendor who's willing to take on a project of this complexity. But we'll keep chugging along. This main clubhouse indoor pool deck resurfacing project has begun. The contractors repairing the cracks and grinding down the existing deck before they resurface that. That was a planned and budgeted project. The South Club roof replacement project has begun. 50% of the demolition has been completed. About 25% of the damaged wood has been replaced. There has been some talk out there of, why are they spending this much money? And the roof should last longer than 20 years. It was in the reserve as a replacement in 20 years. If it hadn't had the amount of leaks and damage at the flashing where it met the roof, even though that had been repaired a number of times, and had caused water to run down, there was damage on the internal walls and also the potential for mold growth. If everything was fine, we wouldn't have replaced it. We would be more than happy to stretch it out another couple of years, regardless of what the reserve said. But it was time. It was causing further damage, which was going to become more expensive. So if you've read that kind of stuff, there were reasons for it. We talked at length with the board about it, and it was the right thing to do. So we got that, and hopefully we can get that finished before the rains come. On the South Club deck expansion project, the architect has contacted the kitchen consultant, making sure the kitchen layout is copacetic. The surveyor has completed their site work, and we're awaiting delivery of the survey to make sure everything we do there will be to the Department of Health code. The Jubilee, catering kitchen, the tile floor replacement project is to be completed during the month of May. And the Jubilee Hall, the partition door replacement, those great big divider doors that separate the big room into 3 smaller rooms, that bidding process is underway. And finally, the replacement of the 25-ton HVAC unit is in process pending estimated delivery date. On special events, Matthew tells me that the next Concert for a Cause is in its early planning stages. Movies will begin here in Veterans Theater on May 26th. Stay tuned for more information. That will be the first time we've been able to get movies back here in over a year. Room lottery forms for booking special events for the theater, the banquet room, and Waterside will be distributed beginning May 1st and are due back by May 31st. The event team has begun building the framework of the event calendar for the rest of 2021 to include movies, expos, and new programming. And finally, the second vaccine dose for the Moderna vaccine distribution program will take place next Thursday on May 20th. Reminder, even though you have received your vaccinations, masks are still required when in the clubhouses until further notice. April, for tram services, we had a healthy ridership, although it was a decrease over the prior month. And in gate security, we had a 10% increase over passes issued over the prior month. Finally, the notables for security patrol, they observed and reported a number of large trees uprooted at the South Club entrance behind 2020 and at Hammersmith after we had a horrible rainstorm during April. All trees and debris were removed within 1 day after being reported. And finally, a relative called the gate concerned about their calls not being answered by their brother. Security was dispatched upon arrival. They knocked windows, contacted neighbors, no success. Finally, the sheriff's department was contacted and arrived. They checked the doors. They were not allowed to locate the relative, and they finally found out that apparently he had been taken to assisted living, and nobody was aware of it. Again, I always remind you of these because it's really important. You're the eyes and ears out there, and your neighbors, you know their behaviors better than anybody else. And this one happened to be okay, but if something goes bump in the night or somebody is infirmed and can't help themselves, we like that feedback from you all. So appreciate that from the neighbors. And that's all.
Before you leave the mic, you were talking about the South Club roof replacement, and you were talking about the leaks, but one thing that you failed to mention, which was important, is when the men's and ladies' locker rooms were refurbished, and I hope the residents have had an opportunity to visit those rooms and see how nice they've been done. When they started refurbishing, they found moisture behind the walls in both of those locker rooms that was due to roof leaks.
Yeah.
And it was temporarily repaired, knowing the roof was going to go up. But there was water intrusion coming into the building, correct?
It was significant. It wasn't just moisture intrusion, it was water damage. It was some rotted materials, rust, etc. And like I said, danger of mold growth, which in Florida is always a concern. And so when we brought that problem, that challenge to the board that we needed to repair what was behind the wall. And you don't know what's behind a wall until you pull the wall down many times. So when we found that, we repaired it, and it was actually the board who said, we need to go ahead and get to the source of this, which was from the roof, and advance that and get that going so we don't put this beautiful new restroom together and then have further damage. Thank you all.
Keith, you want to do the first service management report?
Good morning, everybody. This is the first service management report for the Board of Directors for the Federation. Again, just a quick note that all the Federation directors presently sitting up here at the table are actual current owners of the condominium parcels, and they are up to date on their maintenance fees as of April 30th, 2021. Just a couple of quick notes again. We're following a lot of the land trust procedures, especially since we reside in one of the buildings that they manage. So we are still under the same kind of mask protocols and COVID guidelines that they're setting forth. And so again, as our office continues to be open, we'll follow those same mask guidelines as entering our building. Again, we have plenty of resources available to assist with any needs, so please use that Dropbox, email us, call us, pop into the office, and we'll be happy to help there. A couple quick administration notes for the board for the month of April. There were 61 transfers of homes. We did 35 leases. We took almost 4,200 phone calls. We had 1,680 walk-ins into the office. We did 45 new homeowner orientations. The CAMs did 138 alteration requests, 54 violation letters. I'm squeaking up here, sorry. We processed 289 invoices through our Avid system, and we did 17 new contracts or addendums to the contracts. Quick note here on insurance. We should be having the policies back from USI Insurance in the next 2 weeks. Again, once we gather those from USI, we'll be loading those into the Connect system, and we'll let all the board of directors know that the policies are there for their viewing, and if they need those. In addition to that, the USI agents are putting together a maximum hurricane exposure document for each association, which will help obviously identify in the event of a total loss what everybody's exposure rate is per their association and the number of units they have. So as that comes out, we'll send those out to the board of directors, and any questions or follow-up, we can talk with USI or myself and help get any further questions answered there. A quick update on the Spectrum speed lift. Spectrum has run a report for the Kings Point area, and they're going to be sending out a communication to all the residents about resetting their modems. Basically, if you have an old modem, once you reset it, it lets you know that you need to update your modem. And we'll also be working with Spectrum to help send out a communication as well. And once you have a modem that needs to be updated, Spectrum will come out and swap it out for you. So you have to have an updated modem in order to go from 100 megabit internet to 200 megabit internet. So that's the speed lift that was announced a couple months back. Last end of April, we had the 6 months landscape reviews. So again, we appreciate all the feedback from the presidents in the sections. It's always good to get as many participants as we can, and then we also appreciate those that came to the meeting and asked their questions. So it's important feedback, and we appreciate the participation. Quick update on the palm and oak tree trimming project. Again, we kicked that off at the beginning of April doing the hardwood trees. They've gone through sections 1 and 2 and have completed all of the hardwoods and the oak trees. And as of earlier this week, they started into section 3, completing the hardwoods as well, and started the palm trees in section 3. So we had a nice meeting with the palm and hardwood trimming committee on Monday morning with the vendor and any other residents that want to participate, and basically just kind of went through the scope of work for trimming the palm trees. Again, the thought this year is in a less aggressive cut on the trees with a monthly maintenance program to follow it. So as you have residents, may start complaining about how less they're cutting off, and they might want to see the tree trimmed up higher, just please try to either direct them back to us, or the committee will try to answer their questions and do a little education on the reasons behind that. But again, they're working their way through section 3 into 4, and then we'll follow back up in sections 1 and 2 with just their palm trees in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have it all buttoned up and cleaned up soon. Mulch, we'll be talking about the mulch contract and project a little bit later in the agenda. And just one quick more note on landscaping. There were 29 work orders for the month of April. Again, a lot of those are going to be requests. None yet on the tree trimming with brown. We only had one small issue with them on damage, but most of the work orders were request items for the month of April. And that's all I have for that. Any questions? Thank you.
We will now move to committee reports, and I'm going to call on Liz first. I know that she has been doing a lot of work on health and safety, specifically hurricane preparedness. And Liz, if you could give a quick report to the board on where that stands, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, we've had several meetings to get this.
Liz,
Yes.
can you come up here? Only because the speakerphone is up here and people will be able to hear you, because they can't pick it up on the mic.
We've had several meetings of our Kings Point committee looking at how we can get up to speed in Kings Point, and we've tied in with the overall community disaster planning, and Bob Preston, who's president of CERT. CERT has taken on the entire community operation to make sure it is moving forward, and we are a part of it, although we have our own little niche of things we need to do that include the master clearing roads and Vesta with the gates and those kinds of things, and our insurance folks. We also need to tie in and see what responsibilities we all have to keep this in motion. So we're looking forward to getting things going, and as I said to other folks, we're going to blame it on COVID. The community plan has usually been in operation, and there's already been meetings with the residents to help them get prepared, as well as demonstrating before, during, and after issues. And I think the critical thing here is, yes, you have a community that's working together on this. However, you as an individual have the responsibility to prepare yourself. You're going to be sheltering at home. And there will be some information, as always, that will get out to you soon. You want me to do trees too?
Yep, you can do trees too.
Okay. The tree committee has also been meeting, and we joined the group Monday morning and met with Brown's Trees, and certainly did hear the great information that was given to everybody, and talking about what needs to be done with palms and what shouldn't be done with palms, and how they should or should not be pruned. And Keith told you you're going to see more flowing palm fronds, and that is healthier for the tree as well as more aesthetically attractive. Yes, palm fronds off the roof, but you'll see them a little bit fuller all the way around. Oh, we as a committee are putting together a little bit of information on the palms to hopefully get out to everybody, especially talking about those fronds that start to turn yellow. Thank you. Anything else?
I would specifically, and Liz, while you're walking back, I would specifically like to thank you for all your work on the hurricane preparedness. I know you have pulled together a lot of individuals in the community and for the committee to get the community ready, and I appreciate the extra effort and extra work that you put into it. So thank you very much for your time and effort that you have done on that particular committee. Also, and Liz didn't mention it, with the palm trimming, under the new contract, that better, Dan? Under the new contract, once the palm trees are totally trimmed within the community, there will be a monthly maintenance done, which the Palm and Tree Committee, working with Ryan, will be identifying, along with the Pox and each association, any maintenance that needs to be done for dead fronds on the palms, palms that are now hitting the roof, Brown's Tree will be going through the community once a month, doing a monthly maintenance on those trees as part of their contract with us. So it won't be, okay, we gotta wait to another trimming cycle. It'll be done on a monthly maintenance, which was part of the contract. When it was done at the recommendations of the previous Palm and Tree Committee, along with the recommendations of First Service, instead of doing palm trimming in April and May and then waiting again until the fall, that the residents wanted them basically maintained on a monthly basis. And that's what we did. In fact, in doing it that way, we basically, Keith, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we cut the cost of our oak and palm trimming. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Dan, do you have any committee updates?
Yes. The landscape contracts come due next year. The committee is just now starting, but we will be working actively to review all of those contracts and get them properly prepared for next year. Excuse me. And the other thing that we've been working on is the mulch contract, which we'll talk about a little later. To say there was dissatisfaction with last year's mulching process is being polite. First Service sent out a survey. We took the results of the survey. The contract committee, Ryan Rourke and Keith Wilking from First Service and members of the landscape committee all sat down together, and we rewrote a contract that I think will take care of all of our needs and the concerns of the community. And we've just basically finished that up, and we'll be discussing it here shortly. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dan. Janice, do you have anything? I know that we finally got rid of or completed, I shouldn't say got rid of. We completed the insurance, and I know that they have sent through the initial first report on the impact, which First Service will be, which Keith said will be distributed. Tom, anything on the landscape committee? I know that Dan covered a lot of it.
Yeah, Dan covered most of it right there where we're at. It's a process that we're going to go through that will be prepared when the time comes for the new landscape contracts.
Okay. And Barb, I know that you are working on the insurance committee and the contract committee, so you get off the hook and have to do a report on any of those, seeing Dan already covered, unless you have anything you want to add to it. Okay. Then I will turn the meeting over to Alan for a treasurer's report.
All right. The treasurer's report I'm going to make is based on unaudited numbers. The Federation ended 2021 with $71,578 in current assets for members' equity, with an accounts payable of $5,801 and $504,163 in restricted fund balances. I know you can't read this, so I'm reading this for you. The members' equity quickly became $50,680 for next year, as $20,898 was transferred into reserve accounts to offset expenditures that were approved by the membership in the 21-22 budget. The restricted funds included a $139,737 balance in the insurance deductible fund, the AC2, that leaves us in great shape to start the new year. We had another very good year with only $28,047 in expenditures and $25,11 in revenue, adding to the balance from the previous year's insurance adjustment into the insurance deductible fund. The registration fees fund ended with $134,555 balance, but the balance quickly became $68,268 for next year, as $62,799 was transferred into the reserve funds in accordance with the budget approved by the Federation and the membership. The contracts fund ended with $51,041, mainly from accumulated penalties from landscapers. As you may remember, the Federation used $28,500 in lieu of association assessments for 2 additional palm fertilizations for 2021. The legal fund AC1 ended with the required $25,000 balance. The professional services fund ended with a balance of $83,492. Legal fees were spent investigating several past actions as questions were raised. Some investigation findings were presented to the community, and more will be made available in the future. Finally, remaining balances were $30,012 in the landscape fund, $29,988 in the grounds cleanup fund, and $10,338 in the community promotions fund. Now let me go over the numbers, as hopefully you can see up there. The financial position, again unaudited, this is for the full year ending March 31st, the full 2021 year. Total current assets of $77,379, total restricted funds of $504,163. That's the total at $581,542. As you can see, the total current liabilities at $5,801. That was an invoice that was submitted late, was not able to be paid, basically in its accounts payable to Bug Guys. So that will be paid. That was paid in April. And next chart. As you can see, the revenues, the budgeted revenue of $151,700, that's the fees, the assessment fees. And of course that was collected. That's no variance, that was actually collected. The next line, the other revenue that's not budgeted, is really primarily the transfer fees. 99.6% of that is transfer fees that were collected. The small portion of interest and miscellaneous amounts also. The general operating expenses, administrative, the budget was $7210. Spent was only just a little under $1,300, well under budget. That's basically for bank charges, to file the corporate annual report, any office supplies, insurance, and miscellaneous expenses. Utilities for the Federation, that's electric, telephone, and trash removal for the Federation offices. Budget of $3,700, spent $3,006, well under budget on that item as well. And the contracts line is for janitorial and pest control for the Federation office area offices. Well under budget. We spent $928 on that. And as we've kind of slowed down the janitorial, as we haven't been meeting there much. So we're well under budget on those expenses. Next chart. So the fund balances for the restricted funds, as you can see, the landscape fund, revenue of $14,001, that was for the assessments, equals a balance of $30,012 at the end of the year. The insurance deductible fund, as you can see, there's a revenue item, $2,511. There was no fees collected this year because of a healthy balance, but we received an adjustment from audit from prior years, actually going back from the Mac and Waltz years. when they audited their insurance policies, and they sent us basically a refund of 2005-11. The expenditures, we had a fantastic year for the insurance deductible. Only $28,047 in claims were paid for the whole year, which is great. The grounds cleanup fund had $15,000 of revenue from assessments, ending with $29,988. The legal fund, AC1, had its $25,000 balance. It's required by the AC1. The professional services fund, revenues of $177,800. Now, $109 and $100 was fees assessed. And the difference, the $68,700, was transferred from the registration fees. And that's per the budget that was approved by the Federation and the membership. Expenditures in professional service, mainly attorney bills, $62,561 for the year. Contracts, again, $28,560 expenditures, mainly the two palm fertilizations, ending with $51,041 in the contracts fund. Community promotion, no revenues, $13,096 was spent, leaving $10,338. The expenditures, again, is for Bayshore to maintain the website that will soon be redone. We'll have a new website, and there'll be new maintenance, I suspect, for that. Registration fees, revenue $66,287. Those are from the transfers, from the transfer fees when people sell their house. Those were received this year. The expenditure of $68,700, as I said before, that's a transfer that was transferred into the professional services fund. And that's really the end of that, but I did add one more chart. The last chart I want to show you. And this last chart is simply I mentioned last year the Federation Board and membership approved some transfers of the budget to reassess some monies. Well, that was done also for next year. So I just want to go through and look at the landscape fund. The first column is the beginning balance for next year, which is really the ending balance. The ending balance of this 331 that goes over to next year. But the second column, the middle column, is the amount of transfers that were approved by the Federation and membership to transfer money between those funds, as some had more than needed and some needed some more. So the first landscape account, $30,012, but per the budget, $19,988 was transferred into that account, leaving a $50,000 balance. That's kind of what we wanted to get to in case there's any. That's emergency money, mainly for hurricanes, some major things that might happen, major landscape things that might happen, where we may need some money to fix some situations. The insurance deductible fund is the same. Nothing's changed there. The grounds cleanup fund, which ended $29,988, and again, according to the new budget, $20,012 was transferred into that fund, leaving again $50,000 for the grounds cleanup, for the same purposes as I explained for landscape. In case of hurricane, in case of some major problems that hit Kings Point, we've got some money to fix those. The legal fund, there's no change. Professional services fund ended with $83,492, but $22,799 was also added into that balance, leaving $106,291. That's per the budget. And then contracts fund was the same. That $51,000 is there to fund for the additional 2 palm fertilizations for 21-22 for this new year as well. And then it was mentioned that the landscape contracts are coming due at the end of this year. The goal is to put into those landscape contracts to have the landscaper do 4 fertilizations per year, as required by everybody, by Florida Friendly, by the USF analysis. For the health of those palm trees, they need 4 fertilizations per year, and that's going to be included into the into the landscape contracts going forward, the new ones, so that'll be done. The community promotion fund ended with $10,338, but $20,899 was transferred into that fund, leaving a balance of $31,236. And then the last two, you can see the registration fees, which ended with $134,555. $62,799 was transferred out of that, leaving $71,756 as the fund balance, going forward. That $62,799 are really the first 3 adjustments that I mentioned: the landscape $19,988, the grounds cleanup 20,012, and the professional service $22,799. So that's the $62,799 that came out of registration fees. And then the total members' equity, which ended at $71,568, bottom line there. You can see $20,899 was transferred out of that into the community promotions fund, leaving the total members' equity basically on April 1st at $50,680. So that's my report. Are there any questions on anything there?
I'm going to ask you if you, and I don't mean to surprise you with this question because we have not discussed it at all. I'm going to ask if you could, because the state legislature this year increased the administrative fee from a maximum of $100 to $150. What would that do? And I don't want to answer now, but what would that do? And would we want to possibly look on increasing our transfer fees from 100, and how much additional money would that bring into the Federation for future expenses?
Yeah,
And
well,
could you do that? I don't expect you to answer that question now, but it's something I was wondering if you could do for the board, and because we'd have to take it to the membership, I believe, for approval if we wanted to increase that administrative fee.
yeah. Actually, let me just talk. I think that's a good question. I think it's very, very simple and straightforward. If that was done, you would increase by 50% the amount that was collected. We collected this year in registration fees, what was it, 68,000? We do half of that again, it would be over 100,000 that we would collect. 150 is not that much money, not that much more than 100 when you're selling a house or buying a house, another $50. What it would, and it has been limited to $100 because of the condo laws.
That's the condo law that was changed.
Limited to that.
Yes.
Now, if the condo laws increase that, I think it would simply take a resolution by the Federation board, and this is actually a good note for all the associations out there, because most of these associations also collect transfer fees, and they probably all have been, well, I know they've all been limited at 100, I assume they all are maybe at 100, but this would allow the association to increase their revenues as well, and do a resolution to increase that amount.
And the more we can bring in to use for the Federation budget, the less we have to collect from the residents
Exactly.
for it.
Yeah,
So it's something to keep in mind as we go through this year.
good question. Okay. All right.
In regard to the President's report, I really have very little to say today, but there is one thing is Mother's Day is coming up, and we won't be meeting before Mother's Day. And I think whether you're a natural mother or decided to become a mother, I wanted to take the opportunity opportunity to wish every single individual a very happy Mother's Day. It is very difficult for a lot of people who have lost their mothers. You can't replace a mother. And you basically will never replace it. And you should respect the ones you have that are still alive, and for the members in the community and the members in attendance, if you are a mother, naturally or otherwise, I hope you are celebrated and I hope you enjoy your day. So happy Mother's Day to all the residents in the community. And with that, we had no one sign up for open forum. So I will turn over the meeting to Keith, who is going to basically do a presentation. There was a lot of complaints the community has received over the past couple of years regarding Florida mulch. The residents were advised, and a lot of the presidents were advised, that the only mulch company that could service Kings Point in this community was Florida Mulch. We asked First Service to do some additional research on it, along with the landscape committee, and see if they could find an alternative to Florida Mulch that would allow us to do certain things that the residents during the survey regarding mulch came up with. And I will, before we get into the contract, have Keith do a very short presentation on what he has found and what they are recommending as far as a mulch company for this coming year would be. Keith, you want to do it up from the podium?
Very short presentation. Well, it's good to get excited about mulch. Everybody's favorite topic, and we're going to try to work really, really hard this year to get this teed up and executed and addressed for the community. And I think we have a good plan here. I think we are recommending a good vendor. So just quickly, I'll go through some of the contract specifications. So this year we're requiring that the installer does not use any subcontractors to do the installation of the mulch. The big issue last year with the quality of installation from Florida Mulch. So we've addressed that inside the contract. We're having defined installation procedures. Again, we saw some unprofessional workmanship as the mulch is being applied and not being raked in and things like that. So we've corrected those installation procedures. There's now an option to do a fall or spring mulching, or both if your association would like to. So there's options now on when you can mulch. Again, the fall installation would be between October 1st and November 15th. The spring installation would be between March 15th and April 30th. We're going to have some increased oversight and procedures with First Service, including myself and Ryan and some of our team. This includes obviously delivering of the mulch, measurements of the mulch, day of installation approvals, continued installation oversight as they're installing throughout the day, and then obviously final walkthrough inspections after they've said they've completed for the day. We've added an additional sign-off form for the association, so now you have a sign-off for when the mulch gets delivered, making sure that the bag count's correct and the type of mulch is correct that's being delivered, and then also as they finish installing, we're asking the association to have somebody sign off the approval of the installation. So you have the original quantities, delivery, and then installation sign-offs. We're still using the options of 5 mulch types. So the same mulch types as last year: the cocoa brown, which is a shredded hardwood. We have a cypress grade B, environmental gold, environmental red, and pine bark mini nuggets. So we left the flavors of the mulch there for all the associations because everybody used their own quantity. And again, we're having bagged mulch, and they come in 3 cubic foot bags. Just a quick evaluation of the 4 bidders that we had submit bids for the mulch contract. We obviously had Florida Mulch. This is obviously last year's vendors and the year's past vendors for all the associations. They are located in St. Cloud, Florida, which is Orlando. They've been around since 1978, and they serve various neighboring states. So they do a lot of work in neighboring states, and they specialize also in large-scale HOAs. They do hotel chains, portions of Disney World, Home Depots, big banks, and municipalities. Just a quick note, Florida Mulch does produce their own mulch, but uses subcontractors for delivery and installation. Next was Duval Landscaping. This company is based out of Jacksonville, Florida, established in 2009. They cover the entire state of Florida with their services. Their main business is landscaping, but they also specialize in doing bulk mulch installation. Again, they specialize in large-scale HOA communities, CDDs, which are community development districts. They do hotels and resorts, municipalities, and major commercial office complexes. Duval does not produce their own mulch, but they do deliver and install their mulch themselves with their own crews. Next is Southeast Spreading, located in Fort Myers, Florida, established in 2000. They serve the entire state. They are one of the major suppliers and producers of mulch for the state's various landscaping companies. So they are a major supplier, just like Florida Mulch is. Southeast Spreading specializes in golf courses, golf course communities, large-scale HOAs, portions of Disney World, and then various commercial complexes and roadways for the state. Southeast Spreading does produce its own mulch, delivers its own mulch, installs their own mulch, so that's a key factor there. And lastly, Ramco Mulch, located in Parrish, Florida, which obviously just south of Kings Point, started in 2010. They service a large portion of the southeastern United States, from Florida to Louisiana up to Virginia. Again, Ramco services golf course communities, golf courses themselves. They've teamed up with PGA courses. They do large-scale HOAs, new home builders, so they work with large builders in the state. They do CDDs as well as government roadways and lake banks. Ramco does not produce their own mulch, but they do deliver and install it themselves. So the board has the various pricing per vendor and then per bag. So they can kind of see across the board there. After our extensive overview, we met with several of these vendors. They've worked with various management companies. I've worked with one of them in the past as well. Ryan and myself worked with Florida Mulch directly last year. So we had lots of site visits, lots of interviews. We talked to some recommendations. And based on all this, length of business, location, and the factors of producing, delivering it, and installing it themselves was a big part on our half, and reading the survey results from the community. So with that, it's our recommendation that the board chooses Southeast Spreading for the 2021-22 mulch contract, and we look forward to being able to bring a new vendor in and iron out the process and deliver that better quality that the community deserves. Any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yep.
Do you think that Southeast Spreading, who is exceedingly higher than Florida Mulch or Ramco Mulch in regard to their pricing per bag for the Enviro Gold or Enviro Red, that we could get them to come down to a more competitive rate than the $4.90?
We can definitely ask that. They are lower on the other 3 bag types though. So the Mini Bark, Cocoa Brown, and Cypress, they are.
By pennies, and I would just hope they could adjust that by pennies.
Yeah, we can ask them for sure.
Question on, if you decide to go with the spring, would that fall, because you say it'll be installed between March 15th and April 30th. So would that fall in 2021 fiscal year, since that ends March 31st? Or would that money be taken out of your association's budget for the next year?
If you only choose spring, we're
Right.
gonna try to pull it, we'll pull it out for this fiscal
This-
year.
Okay.
If it's something in the future that each association wants to work with us on splitting it up or doing it differently, we'll have, again, the ability to change their budget in the years prior to
Okay.
reflect that.
And Southeast Spreading, as well as these other companies, all said they could do a fall and a spring. Because in the past, we were always told if we wanted to get the mulch done, we had to get it done in the fall, because in the spring was their busy time of the year and they couldn't do spring mulch spreading. We have validated with all of these companies, including Southeast Spreading, that they could do a fall and spring.
Yeah, they can easily do both of them. Again, condo HOA world definitely has a large demand in the fall time as residents come back. October, November, they want to see pleasing aesthetics, so that's kind of a big portion there. Obviously, the larger players that are dealing with Home Depots and Disney World and things like that might have demands throughout the year. So that was kind of the last year's comments on availability for spring, but we're all set with that now.
Which meets the requirements of the individual associations, because over the past, a lot of associations have said, well, fall is not convenient. The oak trees that we have on our property basically drop their leaves in the spring.
Right.
It loses all the mulch. We have to wait again until the following fall to get them or spend additional money. I know the landscape committee and First Service heard those concerns of the committee, and that's why the bidding process included that. Am I correct?
Correct, yeah, the survey results showed a split on the installation time of year, so we incorporated that as an option for everybody, so. And we'll be able to go over measurements and things like that with each association like years past, so Ryan Work has measured everybody's association himself this year. So we'll be able to go through those with each president or PSC or individual landscape committees and look at those quantities and look at those measurements and then plan out what the association would like to do moving forward. I know Dan, sorry, I had a question.
Keith, just a couple of things I wanted to point out, and you just pointed out that we'll be working very closely with the associations to satisfy their needs in terms of the number of bags and where they're going to be placed and that sort of thing, and when, which is a big deal.
That's really, Dan, can you hold those comments till we get to the contract?
Sure, I can do that.
Any other questions regarding a mulch supplier? Then I would move that the Federation Board of Directors approve the use of Southeast Spreading as is recommended by Keith as our mulch provider for the year 21-22, based on the price quoted, pending possible reduction in cost for the Enviro Gold at $4.90 a bag. Can I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I wanted to point out in the contract this year,
Dan, we're not discussing the contract, we're discussing what
I know.
provider
Give
we're
me
going
a
to
second,
use.
Jack, just relax a second. The contract now requires that the vendor not have some subcontractors. Southeast is beginning cradle to grave company. And as such, they will be placing it, their employees will be responsible for putting it in and not just swinging it around. So all things considered, I believe that Southeast Spreading is the best choice.
Any other comments? Then I will call the question. All in favor of using southeast spreading for the mulch company for next year, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then we will finalize an agreement with southeast spreading pending your conversation with them regarding the environmental pricing.
Do you want me to stay up here?
Yeah, you want to do the contract? Seeing you worked on it along with the landscape committee and the contract committee?
Yes.
And before Keith starts, I just want to add that we looked at the previous contract on the spreading and mulch installation and what procedures should be done and how that contract was written. And the entire board felt that that contract really needed to be redone from scratch. And we basically have decided, and the contract committee and the landscape committee and First Service worked very hard in putting together an entire new mulch contract. So when the mulch contract is presented to the membership approval, after it is approved by the board, you will see one new contract. You will not see a red line version because we did not basically amend the previous contract. We basically came up with a new contract due to the requirements that we were putting in there and the services we were offering. And I would like to, before Keith goes into this contract, I want to thank certain individuals who worked on it. One is Dan Hector, the other is Tom Ricketts, and Barbara Sauvé for her input and direction on that contract. A lot of time was spent on this contract by those individuals along with First Service, and I appreciate the work they did on it. So Keith, I will turn it over to you to do a quick overview of the contract.
All right, thank you. So again, it is a brand new contract. So a couple highlighted items is we've added several different exhibits, which includes a contractor's proposal, the mulch procedures and installation that have been updated and incorporated, obviously the list of associations, and then obviously the examples that all the associations use to identify how many bags they want per street, and also the location of their buildings when we highlight and do those things. We put in definitions throughout the contract now. That's definitely a new update. General provisions are generally the same throughout all the other contracts. We've specified in here the delivery time that they're allowed to deliver still 7 days prior to October 1st or March 15th in this case as well for the spring. So we've defined those fall and spring terms. We've inputted the recommended bed depth height in there for the UF standards. We've kind of identified the insurance and the payment schedule for the contractor. Again, the insurance levels are very adequate with workers' comp insurance. Obviously with property, they have $1 million coverage for the property policies, as well as appropriate automobile insurance when they're delivering and running their equipment around, delivering the mulch to each driveway. Termination reflects generally the same, so there is out clauses for the federation, so it's pretty strong in there. And then you have general information about additional provisions and any litigation. So a lot of the stuff has been cleaned up and updated per the past year's contract. So this new one will definitely will look more like a landscaping contract. Again, has more definitions and more scope of work. Then you'll see the bid sheet from Southeast Spreading will be incorporated in there, so we'll have each bag count and show it in there. Again, tax is added onto the mulch itself, not the labor. So we'll end up having some little notes in there about that. And the mulch installation procedures and the purchase really reflects the same as years past. Again, we'll be meeting out with each individual association, being able to go over the mulch measurements and the quantities they want, and then the style they want of mulch, and we'll have a sign-off sheet for that. Again, we're going to be asking for the POCs, the presidents, or a assigned individual to be able to meet us there when the mulch is being delivered at the time of installation, and then at the end of installation for signatures. So as we get through this process, please prep and plan for trying to have somebody available. It does leave provisions in here for approval on First Services behalf, but we're always going to make sure we try to reach out to the associations and get the final approval. Again, fall and spring options, we'll be able to go through that on an individual association base by basis, so I won't go too far into that, what that exactly means, but you'll be able to choose. And if you want both, we'll be able to adjust the measurements accordingly to that specification. That's generally those items in there in the contract. Again, it'd be one clean new contract, so once it gets approved and we send it out, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Ryan Rourke. Our contact information will be listed on the packages that go out via email, and we'll be happy to meet with anybody if they need to have any direct questions on the approval of this contract. We're excited for it. We're looking forward to getting it done. So, any questions from the board on the contract?
I don't have a question, but I would like to point out that in this contract, if there is a dispute, the contractor's required to continue to do the work until the dispute is honored. So once they start, they will not be stopping for any reason. They'll be doing the work they need to do. Also in this contract, because there are no subcontractors, it's the contractor's employees that are distributing the mulch. They are required by the contract to place the mulch. They can't just sling it in. You can't put it up against the wall of the building. They have to put it properly in there, and before they leave that day, they also have to remove all the mulch from driveways, sidewalks, and grass, and they have to have it properly set in the bed. If it's not done properly, the association makes a comment to Ryan, and payment will be withheld until it is fixed.
Correct.
And
And they'll be using the use of rakes, also cleaning up all the loose bags and debris. So yeah, you're correct on all that.
I just had one thing on Exhibit D. You will make sure to change the amounts so that it goes with the company we're using.
Yeah, the form, it will be changed, yeah, for the actual bag price, the streets will be individual associations. This is just one blanket example.
Right, I just didn't want this going out to the membership
yeah, I see
with
what
the
you're saying.
wrong amounts, because
I got you.
you'll get a lot of calls.
I got you,
think.
yeah. Dan, you good?
Any other questions for Keith?
I don't have a question for Keith, but again, I'd like to make another comment. The Contracts Committee, the Landscape Committee, and First Services worked really hard on getting this structured and put together for the benefit of the community, and I highly recommend that we approve it.
Tom is the representative from the Landscape Committee. You want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to move that the Federation Board of Directors approve the new contract for mulch for the year 2021-2022 as presented by the Landscape Committee and First Service Residential, pending final legal review.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on the contract? Then I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then this is the contract which we will submit to the membership for their approval, along with the use of Southeast Spreading Company to do the mulch installation.
Thank you.
That is the only agenda item that we had for new business. I will now open it up to the floor for good and welfare comments. And if you have any comment, if you want to walk to the mic. Seeing no one has any good or welfare comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.